see here. What's up, you guys? This is Devin from Project Sax once again. I know I've been gone for quite a while. Yes, it's a very tiresome process called college. No need to explain any other things. So today is going to be a questions video. The questions video is going to be, basically YouTube questions that you guys have sent in and you wanted me to answer for you. Yeah, so I'm giving you guys some shine today, and pretty much some of my loyal subscribers send a lot of questions, so it's time to repay your patience. Repay your patience. First question comes in. I got my roommate here, but first question comes in from Electrohog. Electrohog's basically asks me, I got my sheet here. Okay, basically this is a comment. This is not so much as a question, but this is a comment. Basically, Ligature was talking about my C melody saxophone video, which got a pretty good, decent amount of views, and it said something about, yes, you do need a mouthpiece. Because I did ask you guys. I was like, well, do I need a mouthpiece for this? Because I went up to the cashier or the person at the desk, and I was like, well, do you actually need a C melody mouthpiece to play a C melody saxophone? Which would make sense, yes. But since C melody is phased out, I figured people were trying to get by with a different mouthpiece because it was hard to find a C melody mouthpiece. And yes, you do need a C melody mouthpiece. It will be good to find it online, he said. Mr. Electrohog, or Mrs. Electrohog, however that works out, on YouTube. And yeah, they said I needed the mouthpiece to make the decent sound, the decent range, and all that stuff, which I assumed, but I didn't really want to believe since the C melody has been phased out for years now. But thanks for the comment, and I finally got back to you. So the next question comes from EJ. EJ is a loyal viewer, like you all know. I always talk about EJ. He's a young aspiring saxophone player. He plays for his band, and he always has his friends looking at my videos or whatever, and I feel so honored that he does that. But he has a question for me today, and basically he just bought a metal V16 mouthpiece, which he knows that I've been wanting for a while now, because I have a ebonite or hard rubber mouthpiece for my alto that I normally play with, and it's a V16, and I like it because it doesn't really yield itself to one sound. It yields itself to the sound that you would rather play. So basically it's kind of like a mouthpiece in the middle. It doesn't really have the big open jazz sound, but it doesn't have the closed classical sound, if that makes sense to you. But yeah, he got a metal one, and I really wanted a metal one because I figured that my mouthpiece was kind of dark when it comes to soloing. Like, I couldn't really put the sound out like I wanted to, because I do a lot of soloing, and it doesn't necessarily have to be jazz open, but it needs to be open enough for me to get out there. And I don't really want to open it up with a reed of a bigger resistance, like a 5, I don't really want to open it up with a big reed. So I was like, let me see if I can get a mouthpiece that has an open chamber, that has a brighter sound, but still gives me that leeway that the V16 gives me. So I figured I'd go to a metal mouthpiece, but I still need my plastic, not plastic, but a hard rubber one. Don't forsake that one, because it's really good for blending in the band, and it's still really good to play different genres like rock, and go from classical to rock to jazz to to really put that soul into the instrument, to give it more than just one genre. So I like that. I really like that. So just to clarify, EJ had just bought this mouthpiece, and now he's he's kind of tagging me on pictures on Facebook, talking about, oh yeah, I got this mouthpiece, blah blah blah. Okay, so basically he asked me a question, and he's asked me, does the V16 have any different ligatures that you could possibly use for this mouthpiece? And I was saying, Yes and no. See, some ligatures actually give you the choice of whether to buy the ligature for the hard rubber version, for the metal version, for a certain type of version of mouthpiece. Now, I would tell you to stay with Van Doren, but I don't know how many different ligatures Van Doren makes. I know they have the classic, they have the master, they have this, and he had actually had this question on the let's see, Van Doren Optimum video, and basically he was saying, can I get this Van Doren Optimum for my Van Doren V16 metal ligature? Now, excuse me, metal mouthpiece. Now, this ligature will not fit this mouthpiece because the one I did in the video was for my hard rubber V16 mouthpiece. Now, this ligature won't fit that mouthpiece because it's for the hard rubber, of course. But do they make another one for it? I don't know. Is it possible? Yes, but in general, what I've seen with metal mouthpieces, like the metal Auto Link, the metal Jody Jazz, any metal mouthpiece that you can find on the market, that they usually have limited ligatures. The ones that you find, like for the Duke-Off and all those other brands, that have metal mouthpieces, they usually only have the ligature that comes with the metal mouthpiece. And this is because it's a certain size. The chamber of and basically, let me just put it in layman's terms, the fat end right in here, the fat end of the mouthpiece, where you have your ligature at, it's tend to be a different size for metal mouthpieces. You never really have a metal mouthpiece that's the same girth as the usual hard rubber or student mouthpiece. So yeah, that's a good question, and yeah, I've been looking into that, and I really wish I could have a different ligature, but you kind of gotta roll with the punches sometimes, but it's a good mouthpiece, and I would encourage you, EJ, to find the sound that you want by trying your best to use your armature to get that sound, even though you can't have the freedom that you want, because the ligature really does help vibrations. But yeah, so work with that mouthpiece. Try to work with that mouthpiece and see what you can do. But that's a good question, EJ, and that was about ligatures and metal mouthpieces. So we're moving on to another question by I don't necessarily know how to say this name. YouTube names be crazy, but let's see, NB Bashura, and he or she asks, Runyon mouthpieces. I have a Runyon jazz mouthpiece. What is your opinion? Is it playing like you want it to? Have you went over and played any of those? I personally, I have played maybe one or two in my past, but I never really seen it as a big brand that I personally want. For instance, like I played one at the music store, and it was darker, a little bit maybe more closed than I wanted to, in reference to a mouthpiece, And depending on your armature, you might tend to play open, you might tend to play with a closed, more narrower armature. Depending on, you might open this up in the bottom. Like me, I tend to open my lower armature muscles to achieve that subtone, that soft sound, because that's me. I'm more of a small, soft type, smooth type saxophone player. I don't really play with the hard rock armature unless I want to achieve some type of technique in a solo. Now that's how most I see old school jazz musicians, you'll see them kind of change their armature to do a little technique, a Texas wobble, or a bend, or a growl, or something like that to match the mood of the solo. I tend to not have an armature that's square. I don't want to have a square armature. Like Don Menza said, that's D-O-N Menza. So like Don Menza said, if everybody played the saxophone the same, anybody could just go to the store and buy an armature. And that's not how it is. You can't just go to the corner drugstore and buy someone's armature. Everybody plays their saxophone with a different armature. Yes, there's a certain correct way to play it. Yes, but in reference to mouthpieces, the mouthpiece that you have will kind of shape your armature, or you will shape your armature based off the sound that you want out of that mouthpiece, if that makes sense. So basically your armature is going to be like, oh, well, since this mouthpiece does this when I go low, then I'm going to have to do this with my muscles in my mouth to achieve this note once I get it in practice. You see what I'm saying? That's why practice is so important, because you need to know your mouthpiece. Like, for instance, my friend just bought a metal mouthpiece, and I'll elaborate on that more about his troubles. But and another question, because you know that's going to be a part of my questions. But basically, what you need to do is, you know, try to make that mouthpiece do what you want. And if you can't, if it's too much of a struggle, if it's too much, you know, if it doesn't free your soul as much as you think it should, then try another mouthpiece. You know, if cost is an effect, try to find the best mouthpiece for your money. And best mouthpiece is not, oh, it's most expensive for my money. No, it could be a Cloud Lake. Cloud Lake is 60, 70 bucks, 80 bucks, depending on where you get them from. Now, if you tend to, you know, put the price, the more it costs, the better it is, then that's your opinion. But most of the time, that's not correct. It's basically whatever you think is good for your armature, if that makes sense. So basically, whatever you think is good for you, your sound, whatever you think helps you breathe life into the saxophone the easiest way possible, exact way you want to, that's the mouthpiece for you. Now, if you think, oh, well, this mouthpiece isn't good because I just tried it, no, give it some time. You really have to actually get to know mouthpieces a little bit more. But if you know, like me, I played a lot of different mouthpieces, so I'm kind of used to, you know, where they're going to go in reference to where they are when I first get them. So basically, like Notino and some of the Jody Jazz mouthpieces, I was kind of a little skeptical about, was I playing this to the justice that I wanted to, because I hadn't played them for a while. But give the mouthpiece some time if it's yours personally, and because it'll help you in the long run. So and if you don't get the mouthpiece the way you want it, then try something else. You can always go to the store. If you go to the right music store like Sam Ash, and you can go out and you can try a mouthpiece for free, you know, and then they'll clean it up and they'll say, how do you like it? And you'll say, oh, well, I don't like this. You can try any amount of mouthpiece that you want. You know, you just, you know, go to the right store. Now, some stores might say, oh, we don't have this mouthpiece for trial, but you can try this one. You know, try whatever you can. Don't let them cheat you out of 100, some odd, 200, even sometimes $600 for a mouthpiece because you haven't tried it yet. You see what I'm saying? So try that. Try it before you buy it. And I can only encourage that. So go to stores that actually allow that to happen. So, good question, MB Bajra from YouTube. And the next question comes from Blazer441, and it says, where can I try saxophones at? The same principle applies. Where you can try mouthpieces at, you usually can try saxophones. Normally you should go around, like me, I normally go around with my mouthpiece if I know I'm going to a music store. You know, watch out, because your mouthpiece by itself is really delicate. If you drop a hard rubber mouthpiece, you can break it like that, and a hard rubber mouthpiece might cost like $100 if it's a good one, like $100, you know, it's even $300 sometimes. So really try to keep up with your mouthpieces, but you know, get a mouthpiece guard and just go around the music stores and try whatever saxophones, you know. Hey, I got my mouthpiece, guys. You go up to the desk and you're like, hey, I got my mouthpiece, guys. Let me try the saxophone. That's what you should do. You should go up to the counter and be like, hey, I got my mouthpiece, my tenor mouthpiece, my soprano mouthpiece, my whatever mouthpiece. And this is usually for the majority of music stores. If you have your own mouthpiece, they don't have to worry about sanitation. So you can just go ahead and say, hey, I need to, may I play this saxophone? And they'll let you try it before you buy it. Now, you cannot walk out of the store with the mouthpiece or the instrument, depending on where you are. Now, some stores are even, you know, even more generous, and they'll say, oh, you don't have a mouthpiece? Well, we got a mouthpiece. We have a reed for you. You're gonna have to purchase the reed, but bring back the mouthpiece, and we'll let you play this pro bono, whatever you want to do. You just buy the reed, and you can play whatever saxophone that you want, whatever instrument you want, as long as you have, you know, the reed for it. So, you know, you can do that at many music stores. Just try. I know Sam Ash lets you do it. Marsh Williams lets you do it, and a lot of other music stores let you do it, but you have to go there and ask first. Don't, like I said, if you're paying $2,000 some odd for a saxophone, or $3,000 for a saxophone, $4,000, $6,000 for a saxophone, you need to try it first. I cannot stress that enough. And if you're good like me, sometimes I'll go back and try the same horn over and over and over again, just to make sure that my armature, you know, is giving me the exact reading that I want out of that saxophone. Because I'm paying $6,000 for it, or $2,000, $3,400, excuse me, $4,000 for saxophone. I need to know how it sounds. I need to know what I'm actually purchasing before I purchase it. Don't let them cheat you out of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 because you didn't try it out. That's what I'm saying. So that's just a side note. But yeah, you can go to any of your local music stores, but try it before you buy it, and please ask questions. Don't walk up there and say, "Oh, that's a pretty saxophone. That's a pretty saxophone. I can't try that because it's so pretty." No. Walk up there and say, "Hey, can I try this? Can I try that? Can I try that?" Nobody knows how experienced you are as a musician. So basically, when you come in there and they're like, "Oh, this must be a professional saxophone player, or this could be a novice saxophone player," who cares? You're a customer. So customers know what's the motto? The customer's always right. So think that in mind when you go into the music stores. Don't let them cheat you out of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 for a Barry, for tenor, for alto, soprano. Don't let them do that. Try it before you buy it. You see what I'm saying? So the good question, Blazer 441. And the last question, well, there's two questions, sort of, and one's a comment and one's a question. Now, I'll go to the comment first. My friend from my class was like, "Hey, yeah, I've been looking at you at Project Sax. I didn't even know you know, before, you know, I watched you on Project Sax, and now I got a class with him." So it's funny, but it's interesting to see how things work out. But he said, "Hey, well, you know, I've been watching it, and I watched you, you know, Nortino Mouthpiece, or however you say it, and with the Jody Jazz edition. And I was watching it, I was like, hey, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But you know, I think that it's usually played, you know, for Mexican music." And I was like, well, that's kind of racist. In my mind, I was like, that's kind of racist. You know, that's kind of discriminating, right? You know, I never thought of it like that. I never, you know, because if you look at the main person behind Jody Jazz, he's not I don't think he's a Mexican guy. I think he's, you know, just a Caucasian guy. And I don't even like to say the word Mexican because that's discriminatory. You know, that could be seen as, you know, racist in some lights because you don't know exactly what you're talking about. But I wanted to say this comment on my show because, guys, don't discriminate when it comes to music. Music is music, you know. I mean, you might like another genre more than another one, but I always encourage you guys to play, you know, any genre that you can possibly get your hands on, because you know why? The best musicians in life are flexible. They can, like for instance, my arranger, he can put, you know, he's famous for putting different songs into one melody of songs, you know, and he'll compose it, and it's like, oh, I remember that song from this, or I remember that song from that, you know. So he's in light of all genres as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. But that makes him the good musician that he is. Now, guys, you have to don't think square, think broad. Okay? Don't put yourself in a box and don't say, oh, well, this is for this and this is for that. No, think creatively. This could be for this and that and that. You see what I'm saying? You know, don't put yourself in a square, because don't be a square musician, because you'll never be able to think on spot. And most good musicians can think on spot, like improvisers and stuff like that. So, you know, I don't really necessarily like the way he said it, but when I actually took a step back objectively and thought about it, it could be for the Latin styles of music. It could be for a certain genre of music. You see what I'm saying? So that mouthpiece could, you know, sort of, you know, have its own kind of flair to it for a certain genre. So, you know, just like the jazz series Runyon mouthpiece, it could be just for jazz. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, but don't think in a box like that. But certain mouthpieces do yield themselves to certain sounds. Don't forget that. And so, depending on what mouthpiece you want, you might want to, you know, classical mouthpiece is a little bit more darker, but you won't be able to get as much freedom out of your reed as you would possibly think. You know, it's not going to be playing bebop, you know, sometimes it's hard, you know, to do it on a classical mouthpiece, but a lot of famous jazz musicians do that. So don't think that, you know, just because, oh, it says jazz, that I should play jazz on it, or just because it says classical, I should play classical. No, actually a lot of old jazz musicians used to play really dark mouthpieces, which are thought as classical mouthpieces today. You know, they didn't even have that big of a selection back then. So yeah, but thanks for the questions, you guys. And this last question comes from my friend, I'm just gonna call him. So I was thinking, basically, I was like, I asked him, I said, you play on a closed C star, right? And you know, and I believe it's a C star, but I was thinking, I was like, he plays on a closed C star, right? So since he plays on a closed C star, if he goes directly to a metal mouthpiece, it's kind of going to be like, ah. And usually, since that C star is closed, he's probably playing on something dense, like a 3.5, maybe even a 4 reed. You know, you're not going to be able to do that directly from that to a metal mouthpiece. So what you should do is you may start on 2.5. That's what you should do with all new mouthpieces that you're trying. Start on 2.5. A 2.5 seems to be the bridge between all gaps. Now I'm not saying stay on a 2.5 once you purchase the mouthpiece. You can go to whatever reed you feel is necessary in the size. But I want to say generally start on 2.5 because this will give the mouthpiece, you know, freedom, and then even if it's really, you know, open, you know, you can still make a sound out of it. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like the bridge between all gaps in the mouthpiece world. If you play on 2.5 reed, you can sort of get a sound out of generally all mouthpieces, or maybe even a 3, but nothing more than a 3.5. You know, to try it, you want to start with 3 or 2.5 to get just a basic sound out of it. You know, tone it down as much as you possibly can. I just start off with 2.5, especially for people who don't try out mouthpieces usually. But you know, sometimes I've been known to try 3.5, 4s on mouthpieces that I'm just trying, and that's not necessarily the best way to do it. You know, so always try to carry a 2.5 in your pocket, even if you don't play them, because I know a lot of people who don't play them because the sound's so thin. But it just depends on your mouthpiece. You know, just carry around a 2.5 and play if you're trying mouthpieces out, and that should work for you, New Kirk. But as of now, I think, yeah, he purchased it, so I'm pretty sure he's been able to make a sound out of it, you know, since then. So I'll work with him on that. But thanks for the questions, you guys. This is Devin. I know I've been going for a while, but I know I have a friend that I'm teaching him altissimo, you know, and I'm by no means is my altissimo perfect, but I can actually hit the pitches, you know, relatively. So, you know, I'm helping him out, you know, I'm trying to get him on the show. So his nickname is Eli. So help me, guys. Welcome him to the show. Eli is, you know, a pretty good musician. He plays alongside of me in the band. So Eli is probably going to come on the show pretty soon, but I don't know when the next time we're going to actually be able to get the next episode up, when I have some free time. So thanks, guys, for watching, and this is Devin, and I wish you good sound.